Hello, you. Yes, you. This is Usayome Sale from Ways Prime Time. Now, we appreciate your continued support for watching our content, following us across all our social media. But we've noticed, for those of you watching us on YouTube, 88.5% of you who watch our content aren't subscribed to our channel. Why? Now, if you are enjoying our content, you enjoy our shows, and you want to stay updated on all things Ways, it's time to hit that subscribe button below. Now, subscribing isn't just for you, it's for the growth of our channel. It helps us get bigger and better. With your support, we can continue to bring even more intriguing and exciting content. How about you subscribing right now and being a part of our community?
Good morning and welcome to Ray's Breakfast. Hashtag what are you saying? It's Friday, and as they say, let your weekend be the reason you smile today. My name is Oluchi Omink, and I've got the wonderful ladies here with me, ready to spark some joy and kick off your weekend with inspiring conversations, laughter, and insights to carry you through. So let's dive right in. Hello, ladies. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh,
How
hi.
are you?
I'm doing well. I'm happy. I'm glad that I'm here this morning. My voice feels a bit raspy, but
Oh,
thank God
sorry.
for warm water. I'm a bit better. So how are you doing?
I'm great. Fine.
You all look very colorful and bright today. I think I didn't get the memo because mine is just one simple
Where did you
plain
listen
cake.
the memo?
I don't know.
This is like the third time I've heard you saying you did not get the memo.
I don't know. Maybe you guys are not carrying me along as you should.
And you
Ask and it shall be
receive.
given.
Okay, but this is looking so colorful.
Yeah.
The boo-boo attire. You're looking like Josephine now. It can't
God,
be
I
Joseph.
beg.
Josephine the dreamer.
God,
Any
I
dream
beg.
for us for the
There's no
weekend?
dream.
So many colors.
And you're looking like more and me, like you're going for one
As
pageantry
usual.
in one rural
As
area.
usual,
Though.
I'm in my Yoruba woman era.
I like
on.
it.
Come on.
All right, now, so what's the
Energy.
plan for the weekend? Please don't tell me anything boring. I want to hear something interesting.
I want to
Voila.
go and carry tanker. Because I don't know what you want. When you said you want something
Is that
interesting.
a side, do they pay for it? Is this side hustle? I'm
No,
looking for
it's
side
out
hustle at
of
this
love,
point.
joy, passion to
Tanker.
carry things.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, that's what I'm going to do over the weekend.
I mean, my weekend will just be there. I feel like there's even going to be more. I have a lot of activities. Do you get what I'm saying? My Sunday is already booked. My tomorrow
Is it your
evening
yesterday?
is booked. I'm
That's
tired. I
interesting.
just want to go. I'm big.
Oh my.
But for now, like literally, I mean, looking towards what the weekend is looking like, it's definitely going to be looking chaotic because I feel like I have a whole
A
lot
whole
of
lot
work
of
to do.
things
Yeah.
to do. I hope you are able to fix all of them. Well, for
God's
me,
grace.
If you need help, call me, but where there's food or something to take home afterwards. If there's
you
nothing,
disappoint me. Kiki. Sometimes I don't like to associate with you because you embarrass me.
Ah,
How would
voila.
you say that? Because of food on national, people would think you're a foodie right now.
You, I'll be
Sometimes.
foodie calling another person foodie, but it's all
But
right.
this weekend, honestly, I don't have much work. I just have a lot of house care to do. My house is a mess.
Oh, shit.
I'm sorry, guys. My space is a mess. A whole lot of things to do, from laundry to just the whole house. You know, there's this thing where if your house looks very untidy, it has something to it affects your mental health. You
I
just
agree.
become very cranky and
Yes.
And
annoyed
clumsy.
and clumsy because
you
things are
start
not
thinking
organized.
of what exactly you have to do first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'll be looking for things where you that can be very annoying. So this
agree.
weekend, I'll take out time to ensure that my space is as clean as I am.
Sparkling clean. Come on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, please head right now to Official Upgrade TV and be part of what we're doing here. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll look to the headlines across the Nigerian newspapers. So please stay with us. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. So right now, let's look through the headlines making waves this morning across Nigerian newspaper and of course the New York Times. Okiki would lead the way with the Guardian newspaper.
As the Guardian. The headline reads, oil-backed loans, OPEC quotas threaten federal government's 447.9 trillion naira budget plan. Below that, we have the story that reads, oil production to hit 2 mbpd in 2 months, says NNPCL. Another story reads, NHRC reports 427,000 human rights violations in October. The Lagos orders revocation of unoccupied housing units. Atiku once again has advised Tinubu to focus on governance and not 2027. And the last but not the least story here says, military others will stay neutral. CDS vows as INEC distributes materials in Ondo. This Ondo gubernatorial election has been the talk of everybody, and it's the fact that there's so many political dynamics to Ondo elections. I think majorly the West, the Southwest, always have something that has to do with whether tribal or the caucus or something to it. But now, what's the military's business? What's CDS business saying that they will not interfere with the materials? Naturally, they are not supposed to interfere with materials of election. It is strictly INEC's job to take care of that. And then the whole, I think we mentioned logistics and all these things before, where INEC will now start saying that logistics is the reason why they did not get to this so place on time. But there's so many things that they're already trying to, there's so many stories they're trying to push out so that when something bad happens or when something goes wrong, they will now use that as the reason that, you know, we said that these people, the military now came in and they now distributed so many stories around that. So I just feel like people should face the business that they are meant to face. Military is supposed to be backing security, not materials. There should be protection of materials, but that should not be the case where you know that there's law and order in place. And then CDS vowing, I beg, we have seen cases where even married people vow to themselves and they still mess it up. So please, we should keep your vow to yourself and just do your job.
I feel like in this age and time that we are in right now, I feel like there's some kind of news that you're not supposed to be hearing. Do you get what I'm saying? Cases like this, I mean, why is there an organization that is supposed to be taking care of something and it now makes it look like that organization don't know exactly what their job is? I mean, in the first place, that's the reason why INEC was, put in charge of all of these things. That's the reason why there's that body was created in the first place. So if you're not bringing other people into it and saying, oh, these are the people that are supposed to be doing this, or, I mean, it just shows that people don't know your job. And that's why we'll keep going back to, oh, logistics is the issue, is the problem why a certain, what do they call it now, polling units did not start on time and all of this. Those are not the kind of stories you're supposed to be hearing. Instead, you're supposed to be hearing how, how elections can be free and fair, right? Way forward, the reforms that should be put in place in order for, elections to be easier. Do you get what I'm saying? So tell me why we are hearing this kind of news. I mean, we should do better now. Come on.
Well, I want to also talk about Atiku. I feel like there are some newspapers that are now being very biased with projecting Atiku at every minute. Even when he says something that it's not necessarily breaking news, it's not necessarily big news. You see it on the front page. Front page is supposed to be for things that are, very key to
the society and all.
Exactly. So why is Tinubu should focus on governance and not 2027 the case? Every elected official is looking forward to what's going to happen in the next 4 years when I'm out of this place.
Obi was trending the other week, I mean, him also saying something. So maybe Atiku also has
yes, I think 2 days ago we said something about Atiku. Last week there was something about Atiku.
Today Obi too. They have been saying a lot of things.
But he's really getting to the front page. That's why I said that there's a bit of bias there, that anything Atiku says, if he says that Tinubu should carry beans on his hand, they're going to put it on the front page. So it's not necessary. For me, it's not necessary news. So that's just it.
Is that all we have for The Guardian?
Yes, that's all we have for The Guardian
this
morning.
All right, so straight into the international space. New York Times newspaper. But the right side of the newspaper, we have enemies meet and play nice for a moment. Biden and Trump talk transfer of power. That's giving me officially now, Trump would be the 47th president of the United States. And next to that, we have the Gates nominated by Trump to lead the Justice Department. By the left side of the newspaper, New York puts congestion toll back on track. Next to that, Kennedy's wish list for FDA raises red flag. Bottom of the newspaper and crypto era, a contest go from R to All right, next to that as well, which is the last headline on the newspaper, says Ukraine is focusing on security as Trump presses for ceasefire. That's giving me, good news a bit. But, I mean, the one I want to talk on is the fact that Biden and Trump had a very interesting conversation, I think for about 2 hours. Let me just quickly read the details.
2 hours?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, transfer to power talk now. So let me quickly read the details. Okay. And it says, summary, right, describes a rare and awkward moment when President Biden and President-elect Donald Trump briefly acted cordial towards each other at the White House, despite their long history of harsh criticism, with Trump calling Biden crooked and what's his name now, and Biden calling Trump a dictator. Now, they shook hands for 29 seconds. Is how this even went detailing for me. Okay, so they shook hands for 29 seconds. Okay. Yeah. A traditional gesture during the transition of power. Biden offered Trump help with the transition, even though Trump had not done the same for him 4 years earlier. Is it this New York Times here? All right, so after the brief interaction, they had a private meeting that lasted nearly 2 hours. While Trump seemed to enjoy a moment of political comeback after his defeat, Biden and his team felt the weight of the situation, struggling with the defeat and the reality of Trump's return to power. This encounter was a mix of public civility but underlying tension between the two. So honestly, I mean, this is just officially saying that this transition of power from Biden now to Trump. So I think Trump is officially the president, the 47th president of the United States. Honestly speaking, I can't wait to see the impact.
January that we can
see officially, right? But the fact that there's already transition of power, it seems like things are in progress now.
So it's not looking like somebody's going to
challenge. Exactly.
Challenge the elections.
Even when you know that you clearly did not win. To court in Nigeria.
Do you get?
If you know that you rigged the election and you still did not win, to court.
I'll just say that
going to
if
court.
you don't win an election, don't bother dragging it, because you're not there's nothing that will be done. Those state elections that the Igbodalos people were like, we're taking this Occupational, maybe they just sworn him. And that's just how the dynamics are. So let's see the Punch. The major headline reads, Ondo poll, military policeman boundaries, IG orders lockdown. Beavers, other materials arrive local government. PDP governor asks electorate to defend votes. EFCC warns vote buyers. North epileptic power persists as TCN battles tower repairs. Tinubu may present 47 trillion naira 2025 budget to National Assembly today. Federal government proposes fresh $2.2 billion external borrowing. Fuel import hasn't stopped, says NNPCL. 10 million release. 668,000 euros for flood relief in Nigeria. 4 Kogi varsity lecturers dismissed for sexual misconduct. UBA to raise 239 billion naira via rights issues. Just to talk a little bit on school stuff, I want to talk about this budget thing, but I couldn't find the full story. So let me just hold my thoughts on that. Tinubu is presenting 47 trillion naira 2025 budget to National Assembly today. So
what is it going to be covering?
Exactly. We don't know it yet. That's why I'm just calming down. That let us first understand what it's going to do today. Probably on Monday we'll get the full gist. But this Kogi lecturers that were dismissed for sexual misconduct seems to still raise concerns as to what happens in universities these days. It's so funny how human beings don't learn. Even when there are several scapegoats that will come out from a bad misdeed, you still see people still go in to do it. I was talking to a student some days back, and she mentioned how that in her school she had to change the way she appears to classes. She had to change from looking overly pretty to being too sober, so she doesn't cause attention with certain lecturers that have been, disturbing her. I'm like, really, these things ought not to be mentioned again.
My personal experience is that I stopped wearing dresses, like gowns, whether tight, whether... And probably that was even the beginning of my free outfits. I just knew that the first day I wore a tight dress.
And you looked so beautiful.
The lecturer said, would you like to answer the question? I was like, no, sir, I don't even know the answer. He was like, go to that board. And everything he was looking at was you just see him doing this.
Your silhouette.
He's just doing this. And then later he said, come and see me in my office. And I'm like, who don't want to go and do your office? But then I realized that it was the outfit.
That called you out.
Yes, that called me out. And then it's not like it was pronounced or anything, because when I was in the university, I looked as thin as you can imagine. But there's this thing with people who are psychologically deranged.
Yeah.
Even when you are not looking anything like,
That's exactly what I
they
wanted to
would
even
claim
mention. Even
that
when you're
you
not
look,
dressing a certain
yes,
way.
they would
So
still want to feel like it's your outfit. So I just stopped. I started wearing jeans and big polo with sneakers. Immediately I see any lecturer passing, I'm bouncing, and the shoe does the work for me. I just bounce and pass another route. So this whole sexual harassment thing will still happen, even years after, because people always feel like, humans naturally feel like they can be smarter than they are already. So
Yeah.
if you feel like we caught these social varsity lecturers through
they won't
coming
catch me
to
when
the
it's my
office.
time.
Yes, when it's my time, I will tell them to come to hotel, or then they'll be the one to book the hotel themselves.
I will
and then
take their phone so they don't record
exactly.
me.
So they always feel like they are smarter in one way than the other.
It's a growing concern, honestly, and it's a very sad one because it's in the educational space.
Yeah.
I mean, teachers or people that
You're
have
begging
to pass
girls
knowledge,
to go to school. You're begging girls to go to school, yet you are trying to make sure that the
Not continue
process
school.
is not
very
easy
sad.
for them.
All right, this is where we wrap up the headline stories. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we have an expert guest in the house who is going to join us for our Tech Special Friday. Today's conversation is about occupational health, safety, and the use of technology. So please stay with us. We'll be right back shortly.
Imagine the world where the voices of the youth finally get the spotlight they deserve.
Welcome to Ways Breakfast, the groundbreaking show where young minds unite together to tackle issues that truly matter.
We're flipping the script on traditional morning talk shows, and this is your chance to hear the youth speak out.
We're not just skimming headlines, we're diving deep into the heart of topics that impact us all.
From politics to governance, tech innovations, mental health, and trendy social issues.
We don't just discuss, we ignite conversations that inspire change and spark action.
Join us every morning for fresh, young, and vibrant perspectives
that empowers the next generation to make a difference.
Start your day right with Ways Breakfast, because when the youth speak, the world listens. Ways Breakfast, weekdays at 8 a.m. live on Upgrade TV. Welcome back to Ways Breakfast. So as we dive closer to the weekend, let's dive into something that's going to shape the future, the role of technology in enhancing occupational health and safety. Occupational health and safety is becoming an increasingly critical concern as workplaces evolve and face new challenges. OHS focuses on safeguarding the health, safety, and well-being of employees in various work environments. In Nigeria, where industrial growth and a significant informal sector creates unique safety challenges, promoting safe workplaces is essential for economic stability and public welfare. However, limited resources, regulatory gaps, and varying workplace conditions make OHS a complex issue to address. Technology has emerged as a powerful tool in improving OHS standards. Innovations such as wearable devices, safety apps, automated monitoring system, and virtual reality training are helping companies anticipate risk and respond to incidents in real time and also enhance safety training. In Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment is tasked with setting and enforcing workplace safety standards. However, implementing advanced OHS technology can be challenging, especially for smaller companies. Despite these hurdles, technology offers a pathway towards creating safer, more compliant workplaces, particularly in high-risk sectors like construction, manufacturing, and oil and gas. Today's discussion will explore this advancement and how they are being applied in Nigeria, and the role of government and organizations in promoting a safer working environment through technology. To join us is an expert, a friend of the house, actually. His name is Mr. Olanrewaju Said. He's an inspector of factories with years of experience at the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, Occupational Safety and Health Department. He specializes in workplace safety, regulatory compliance, and employee well-being. He's also a safe migration advocate with a background in industrial chemistry. Mr. Said is skilled in conducting inspections, identifying hazards, and implementing effective safety measures to foster a culture of safety across industrial environments. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you.
We're so glad to have you here again. I mean, it feels very great when we have some of our guests come back again, especially those that join us physically. It shows us that you're part of us, you really like us, and you want to see us again. So we're extending our heartfelt gratitude to you, and thank you for coming again.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I had a good time the last time I came.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I like that. All right, thank you. So we're talking a topic that is very not common. I mean, workplace safety. I would say that even for me, apart from the first time we had this conversation and now, I've not really heard conversations like this, I mean, very rampant in the media space, or people have been talking about it, more or less young ones. This conversation is very tailored to young people. So I want us to start off by you briefly explaining what occupational health and safety entails and why it is so critical in workplaces.
Well, from the name already, it says occupational health and safety is just simply about the health, safety, welfare of workers. Generally, it applies to any industry, anywhere there's an activity going on. Safety is very important. And why it's crucial is because when you look at it, every workplace you go to, the activities that goes on there, especially in the ones you mentioned, like manufacturing, construction, they are of economic importance. So when you have a safe environment, which reduces injury, accidents, and in some cases even fatalities. If you are able to eradicate these issues before they happen, which is the importance of occupational health and safety, is to monitor these activities and make sure that people are operating or workers are operating with safety parameters and following the guidelines and such, then it helps at the end of the day to make sure that everyone is working safely, activities are going on as they should, and generally this helps boost the economy of the country as a whole.
Before I let my anchors continue the conversation by asking you more questions, I'd like us to relate this topic to the Nigerian context. What would you say is the, where does OHS, I'm trying to shorten the word, occupational health safety, where does it stand in Nigeria? Are there present industries and companies that are probably experiencing more challenges than the other?
Yeah, OHS is actually, even not just Nigeria, it's a worldwide thing. It's very important, like I was saying before. It's crucial, actually. That's the word.
But in Nigeria, how is it looking like now?
In Nigeria, companies are making strides. They are making efforts. Okay. But, of course, like I always try to say, there's always room for improvement. And then there are some industries that require more efforts to ensure that there's safety, because these are high-risk industries like construction, oil and gas, factory premises as well. That's manufacturing, for instance. These industries, because of the nature of the work, they are more prone to risk or hazards. They are exposed to hazards more than, for instance, here. Here as well, there are some hazards that you could be working and you fall. That's an hazard as well that you have to look out for if there's slips or whatever. But you can't compare to a manufacturing setting where there are blades cutting, there are machineries that could pull your clothes and so on. So that's why it's very it's much more important in those industries than, I don't want to say important, it's important everywhere, but it's more, it's more of a priority, so to speak, in those industries.
Okay, you mentioned, and I'm going to ask you a question from the last time you came, just for accountability purpose.
Okay.
But you mentioned, I think the last time, about when something happens, then you write a letter to your organization, to the ministry, and then they take charge of what's to be done. But now we're talking about what technology is doing. And in a world where most parastatals in Nigeria is paper to paper, you take signing, they'll tell you to come next week. The person that's supposed to sign it is not around. How is technology now changing that in your organization?
Yeah, so like you rightfully said, to be honest, this is a challenge that we face in our work, and we are trying our best to improve this. One thing you would realize in many work settings that I've been for a long time, has a leadership of people who have been in the system for quite some time. You notice that people become complacent with the way operations have been for quite some time. So when you have new people coming up and letting them know, like, look, this is 2024, you know, there are technological advancements that we can put in place to make sure that operations are moving smoother and faster. For instance, reporting of incidents. This is a very big issue because it's underreported, right? And if it's underreported, it means we don't have the clear picture of what's going on. So we don't know the magnitude of what the problem is. So there are systems in place that we could implement or introduce into the system to make reporting of incidents much easier, which we are trying to do now. And of course, the ministry is also cooperating. Even recently, this was just last week, Tuesday, if I'm correct, the FG just launched an occupational health and safety strategic plan, a 5-year plan. Okay. So it's important, and the government is also aware of, the importance of this, and we are working towards improving this system. We acknowledge that that's a challenge, and we are working towards making it better.
I remember that you said the last time that in your jurisdiction you're trying to also create, was it an app or something to also aid, these things being reported? So how far has it gone? I just want to know.
What I was talking about in the initial interview was my own personal project, which I'm working on.
Saying that in your jurisdiction, like, what you could handle. You said you were doing an app that could help the government.
Like I said in the initial interview as well, I mentioned that it was still in the rudimentary stages. But of course, in order for this to be successful, partnership is required, which means when it gets to a certain level where there's like a prototype, I'm willing to, I plan to introduce this to the rightful authorities, but not just the Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment. We want to involve the NSITF as well, and other relevant Lagos State Safety Commission and so on. Those people, those stakeholders who are important in decision-making and policy-making when it comes to safety in the industry. We want to involve them in the process, so it's all-encompassing, because just one team is not enough to cover up everything. We want to do this, so we are not in a rush, basically. We want to take our time to do the right thing and make it effective.
Okay, so my question is going to be speaking to the future a bit, right? I mean, since we're talking about the role of technology and all of that, I would like you to put us on, apart from this app now, what other, technologies have been put in place to ensure that, all these safety measures are seen properly? Now, let me give an instance. I think there's this watch almost everybody wears now that tells you your temperature and a whole lot of things wrong with you. Exactly.
I think you're putting on one.
So even, it tells you kilometers that you have to follow, just a whole lot of things, right, about your health and all. So I want to ask, are there, things like that, wearable technologies that, these workers now that works in the construction site and all of these things can actually wear that would actually tell them before, that, oh, this thing that you're about to do is going to be, I don't know if it's me being, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
No,
So I want
just
to
waiting for you to finish.
So I want to know if there are things like that already put in place, or is it that we already know how Nigeria is when it comes to technology. We are like way back where the Westerners are. So I want to know if it's something that is already existing, but probably not in Nigeria, maybe due to economic status and all of that.
No, it's in Nigeria.
Oh, okay.
But, like you rightfully said, adoption of new technology takes time because, especially in this our part of the world, in Nigeria, right, we kind of become complacent and, we are just used to a certain system, and then for you to change this is a challenge. So, change doesn't come so easy, right? So, but to answer your question, there are, wearable devices that help in safety, and I've seen in some cases in construction and oil and gas, and I'll get to the reason why it's still sort of limited to these industries because, there are wearable devices like smart helmets, smart watches, even smart vests as well. And, the job of these devices basically is to, what they do is they check your vitals, the human body, the vitals, and your surrounding environment. So, for instance, if there's a gas leak here, this kind of place where we are now is sort of a confined space, right? So, if we have like a gas leak, the devices can detect because the oxygen level is dropping, for instance, and this leaves you susceptible to hypoxia. After some time, if you are still in that environment, you can pass out. And if, for instance, you are alone, there's and you don't know what's going on. So the job of these devices is they will let you know, like, look, I think there's something going on. Maybe you have an app that's stored on saved on your phone. Okay. It would alert the app to let you know that, look, you have to leave this place or something. So, that's the essence of these wearable devices. And, of course, there are other ones beyond the scope of what you talked about. Like drones, for instance, are very, very useful for inspections of very hazardous environments because there are some environments where if you are too exposed to these environments, it poses health risk. So, but at the end of the day, you still have to inspect them because you don't want a situation whereby because it's hazardous and you're not monitoring, then you have a catastrophe or something that leads to fatality. So the drones can be used to check those kinds of places. So by so doing, it restricts you going there physically. And then also it can also be used to inspect tall buildings, like in construction, for instance. You can use it to check up to 100 floors of building, and it can get into confined spaces where humans might not be able to reach and so on. So, and also this, when you incorporate it with AI, it can detect, hazards before an incident occurs, which is the main point of these things. Yeah. But in terms of adoption, it's slowly being adopted, but to get to the reason I was saying, it's because these things are expensive to implement. So now, where you see it is that it's in few cases that you see them, it's the supervisors or the managers that have access to this.
I was about to ask that how accessible is it for even the most basic of workers to wear a smart jacket, a smart helmet, a smart wristwatch?
That's what I was going to say.
I'd like you to hold your thoughts on that. We have to go on a break and continue the conversation once we return. So please stay with us. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We're still discussing the role of technology in enhancing occupational health and safety. We've been joined by an expert guest who is very active in this industry and doing great work. So, Okiki, you had a question to ask about accessibility, remember?
Okay, yes, I think I already answered
So
the
she
question.
was asking about accessibility
See
of
other
these
workers.
new smart devices that helps with hazard prevention. So, because of the costs, for instance, if you have like 50 workers and there's some big corporations that have like 300, 500 workers, imagine what it would take to fit all of those workers with, yeah, it's a lot of money. And that's why for now, a few places where we've seen them, it's the supervisors. So of course, it's being encouraged that, the workers themselves, because they are the ones who are in the front line. They are the ones going out there to do the job, to, be at risk, so to speak. So these guys have to have access to this, but we also understand that it's a lot of money to make this happen. So
I'm going to ask this, sorry, cut you short. This very, it's like a funny question to me because I have the pictorial view in my mind. So there was a time in my school, I graduated from the University of Lagos. Yeah.
okay.
So in my school at the time, I think at the Senate House, there was this time that they launched 2 robots. I mean, I know the pictures went viral. We saw robots around the Senate House and they were moving around. I guess the essence was for them to carry out certain activities. And it was quite awesome because we used to think that this robot thing is probably an American thing, the Western world. We don't see it coming, like to fruition in the Nigerian space. And then there's also the viewpoint where people say AI is coming to take over people's jobs and it's making people scared. But honestly, looking at occupational hazards, I feel like if there's any job AI can take very freely, it's the one that puts people's life at risk. I've watched videos on TikTok and, some of these videos where they show you people that work in all these hazardous places and the equipment that they deal with can be very scary. And to think that human beings are the ones handling this, it's quite, I don't think I can take such jobs, and I don't even want to advise somebody to take this kind of job, but we need people to be there. Do you understand that? So I don't know if it's also possible, like talking about the future, if there's, I don't know, maybe your industry where you work in currently, they're looking at having less humans work with this kind of hazardous places and having more robots in that sense to that. It's funny, but what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say that's a very good question, or is it an observation? Because this is actually a very important concern. Because, like I was saying before, workers' activities are they are of economic importance, right? So we want to also make sure that as far as AI, technology and so on are very important and they help make life easier, we also want to make it pass the awareness that these technological advancements are not supposed to take the place of human input in the process. But the places where technology can be used to replace, like you were saying, that would work is, for instance, we were talking about ergonomics before this started, and there are some, especially in factory settings, there are some activities that require repetitive actions to be done. Like imagine just removing something and putting it for a whole day, like 8 hours
Sometimes
or
it
10
takes
hours.
students for excursions to go see how these things happen. And remember when we were younger, you think, oh, this is an amazing thing, seeing something covering, but honestly, the hazards.
So these things eventually it poses health risk to the people in the long run. Like for instance, the carpal tunnel syndrome.
Can you explain that to us? We want to understand
it's
the
a
terms.
musculoskeletal disease that results from repetitive activities. So if we bring in robots or we incorporate technological solutions in the production line of these kinds of roles, it's good, it's encouraged because it reduces the exposure of the workers to these kinds of musculoskeletal diseases. You understand that would, eventually be an issue for them in the long run. So for those kinds of things, and also for predictive data analysis, AI technology is good, but at the end of the day, we also have to make sure that we don't over-rely on them. We have to make sure that the human input is there, because remember, these technologies, they don't have emotions.
Yes.
So a human being has to be the one to actually make the decisions when it comes to like policy making, creating of standards and all of that, because at the end of the day, these policies and standards affect human beings. It doesn't really affect the robots, So the robots are there to help out, not to replace the humans. Of course, it's going to take away some jobs. For instance, when you look at ticketing, if you want to buy a flight ticket now, everybody can just go on your phone and just buy it. But when you look at a few years ago, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, you have to call, go to the airport, or, it's someone's job. But now, if you have that job,
You have to think of hypertension.
yeah. So.
This is the basis, what you have said is the basis of my next question, and that is beyond or away from technology, the fact that these people, maybe in another 5 years, will still not have access to these devices. Was the your governmental organization doing to ensure that these people sort of have a sense of safety? They know that, okay, while I might not have this thing to maybe rely on a bit or detect this thing for me, I can notice certain signs maybe in the machine that will tell me that maybe the oil is bad or the machine is about to become faulty or stuff like that. Is there anything like that the government or your government organization does to?
Yeah, of course. Remember, before all these technological advancements became a thing, there were procedures and, reliable procedures, standards, policies that have been put in place. For instance, if you have a factory, if you want to set up a factory, you are required to bring the factory plan, all the machinery that you want to put in there, everything is checked. And there are government-approved people who are allowed to maintain these machineries. So each of those different machines, depending on the parameters or what they do, they have a time when you are supposed to service them. You have to, the system is already there to make sure that these checks are there. That if you are supposed to use this machine for 6 months and service it every 6 months, you have to make sure you do that. If you are supposed to use this machine for 2 years and service it, pressure systems, whatever the system might be, you have to, do the right things to make sure that you avoid a situation where you are just using it and you're not. It's just like your car as well. If you are using your car and you are not servicing it, you didn't change the oil in like 2 years, in 1 year, and you are now complaining that there's an issue. Or maybe you are driving with the same tire for like 10 years, the same tires on your car, and then one day the tire gets blown out on the bridge or something, and there's an accident. It's those systems are there.
I need you to address bribery in this scenario, because we know that a lot of times things are supposed to work for 6 months, and then you go and meet the supervisor or the person that's supposed to checkmate you, and you're able to slip something through. So how do we ensure that while there's so many policies and standards put on ground, you see cases like NAFDAC, after maybe one particular drink has gone round, then they will now say it has been banned. Meanwhile, this thing has NAFDAC number written on it. Even in the music industry, maybe certain explicit videos would have been released later, then the music industry now say we ban it. So how do we address the fact that these cases still happen, that I can bribe you to keep a machine that is bad running, just like our national grid has been collapsing for 600 years now, and I refuse to come up?
Well, to answer that question, to be honest with you, this is not an isolated situation. It happens even in the advanced, in the first world countries as well, because at the end of the day, the people involved in making these measures are humans, and then there are sometimes oversights and so on. I don't also want to deny the fact that corruption is an issue in this country. Of course it is. But, going and seeing a factory machinery that's not working and then someone takes money, he's putting himself at risk. Do you know why? Because if you keep using, for instance, okay, let me give you a case study. For instance, there was an incident that happened, and I don't want to use Nigeria because I realize that you have it against Nigeria. I want to use...
Not necessarily,
Wait,
but we have
hold
to
on.
bring it to our home country,
Hold on.
basically.
Yeah. I'm using the United States of America. There's an incident that happened. It's a pressure-related incident that happened. So if every pressure system has something they call the pressure relief valve, and the essence of this is that when there's too much pressure built in the system, it's a safety measure. The pressure relief valve is a safety measure that would then forcibly release the pressure, because if not, it would cause an explosion. Depending on the magnitude of the machinery or the system that's in place, it could be quite catastrophic, and in this case it was. And I think there was even a fatality, and of course also it will, because when the explosion happens, it becomes like a projectile, and it damages other machineries around, and if there are humans there, it's going to get you flying. So my point is, even in these kinds of places, issues like this happen. This case I was talking about, they lost about $5 million worth of machinery in this case. So if we are also talking about the issue of recalling, recently Nivea, which is a multinational company, also they just recalled one of their, what's this thing called? Roll-on, yeah. One of the, is it flavors or what? They just recalled it because I was using this thing before, but I realized that I was reacting to it. So I changed to another, so these things happen, right? So like I always say, it's not a perfect system, and we acknowledge that there's so much to be done to get to the promised land, but surely we'll get there.
At the pace we do not know yet.
So I like the fact that you said we'll get to the promised land, right? So let's talk a bit about what the government can do for these companies, or these small companies that are not able to get these expensive, wearable technologies and all the technologies that we mentioned here, including like the robotics and all. So where do you think the government can come in place? What do you think they should do? Should they, like, what are the right authorities that they should speak to in order for these, these machines, these wearable technologies now that are needed to, protect themselves? I mean, I'm just looking at how they can help themselves. Do you get what I'm saying? It is one thing to say that we have these things in place. It's another thing to say that we don't have the money to get it. So I'd like to know where the government can come in.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying recently, I think it's still less than a week or just over a week that the government launched a 5-year strategic occupational safety and health program. And I'm sure this is one of the most important things that will be included in this plan, is to raise awareness and encourage training, because it's not just about handing workers these equipments. You have to actually train them. For instance, another good one that we've not talked about is virtual and augmented reality. Okay, I think you mentioned it in the introduction. It's good because it helps to simulate training programs that would ordinarily be risky or hazardous, and it makes you experience these trainings in such a way, in a controlled environment, so to speak. So these are some of the things that we are trying to introduce to the industry, because when it comes to safety, one of the most important things is training. So, people always have to be on their toes when it comes to training. Anything safety, training, because new equipments are coming up, new technology are coming up. People are not used to these systems. They are new. So you have to train them first. So before going to the point of actually saying, okay, we are the government, we want to give you guys this, we have to encourage these companies to train them. For instance, no matter the industry you are, it's good for you to learn AI skills now, because this is the future,
Technology,
right?
yes.
It helps us, it makes work easier for us generally. So, this is something that should just be encouraged.
Go ahead.
So how does these devices sort of help you? You said that cases are a bit underreported. How does these devices help you report cases like hazard and all those stuffs in real time? Because I think that's another issue that we should be able to address. Maybe the company already knew that this thing is going to blow up in maybe 2 weeks, and then it takes them 4 weeks to report it. We're still going to go back to the same thing where it's hazardous to the people.
Good question. So the thing is, also I want to use a case study for this as well, because I like to be relatable.
Good.
So there was an inspection we went for recently, and we found out that there was, because when you have to look at the training log of any company we go to, just to make sure that, okay, we want to check the incidents and so on. So I identified one incident that happened between a forklift driver and one of the staff or a worker in the company. This guy actually hit the woman. And upon analyzing the situation, we found out that it's just like in your house, for instance. If you're climbing the steps and NEPA takes the light, you find out that you don't even need to do anything because you are used to it. So we realized that these forklift drivers in this company, because they are already used to the vicinity, they don't consider visibility an important factor when they are driving. So because this is a plastic company, and they usually pack their finished products in sacks. So when you put the sack on the forklift, it covers almost entirely the visibility of the driver. Meanwhile, the forklift is designed in such a way that you can actually lift it up or put what you are carrying all the way down, but make sure you are seeing clearly. So anyway, this woman, she had an impairment, hearing impairment. She couldn't hear. So she was coming, and this guy just hit her and almost crushed her. But she's been in the hospital now for like over a week on this issue. So first of all, this case was not reported as well. Of course, the first thing we did was to educate them. Like, look, according to the regulations, you are supposed to report any incident that keeps a worker out of the workplace for more than 3 days. It's a requirement. So now we are doing the accident investigation, so I can't discuss too much about this case as well.
I'm sorry to cut you short, but this is going to lead me to the next question. Now, you mentioned...
But I've not answered that question.
I know, we're wrapping up very
Okay.
soon, so I want us to maybe combine everything together.
Right,
You
go for
mentioned that this particular woman that got to the hospital was impaired with her hearing. So I wanted to ask, does your department also focus on the health, fitness, or how do you call it now? Do you check or cross-check their medical records? Because it
Anything.
looks like in Nigeria today, anybody that just comes with any pitiful face, you just put them to work. Some of them are not even fit to be able to stand in that kind of hectic environment.
Yeah, so anything
As
that
we're
has
about
to...
to wrap up in less than 1 minute.
1 minute. Oh, anything that has to do with health of any worker is our jurisdiction. It concerns us. So to quickly answer that question, when there's like even as simple as a mobile app that's created and accepted, amongst all the parastatals, ministries and so on, for reporting of these incidents, it allows that kind of issue to be reported in real time. So this is something that we're trying to incorporate and encourage in the system. And surely this will go a long way, because when we have access to all the data and we can analyze and see that, okay, these areas need to work on, it's easy for us to now create policies and standards or whatnot that would help at the end of the day in the long run and make the workplace even safer.
So you people, I'm going back to that health records again.
Yes,
when you go for inspections and you are checking the staffs and everyone, do you ask for their health records so that you can know people that are unfit
we
for
ask,
certain jobs?
Yes, we ask even age as well. If you employ someone who is younger, or you are giving someone too much work than their age, these things, we check them.
Check them.
But like I said, it's underreported and we are working on that. Yeah.
It's a very beautiful department that you're in, and we thank you for the many good works that you're doing. This is where we wrap up the show for today. It's been very insightful from Monday, and today is Friday. So till next week again, Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Do not forget to tune in to Raise Breakfast. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Hello, you. Yes, you. This is Osayome Sale from Ways Prime Time. Now, we appreciate your continued support for watching our content, following us across all our social media. But we've noticed, for those of you watching us on YouTube, 88.5% of you who watch our content aren't subscribed to our channel. Why? Now, if you are enjoying our content, you enjoy our shows, and you want to stay updated on all things Ways, it's time to hit that subscribe button below. Now, subscribing isn't just for you. It's for the growth of our channel. It helps us get bigger and better. With your support, we can continue to bring even more intriguing and exciting content. How about you subscribing right now and being a part of our community?